You're listening to Jenny Crwys Williams on Talk Radio 702. 702. Your number one news and talk station.
Well, good afternoon to you, and we are broadcasting live from the pavement outside Vovotello on 4th Avenue in Parkhurst today. And wherever I look, I can see 702 vans and the odd parked car in the high street, but not much more than that. And that really is what we want to talk about. We want to talk about what is happening in Parkhurst and what is going to be happening in a suburb near you in the not too distant future. So the show is largely dedicated to unpacking the issues that have arisen as a result of a new paid parking system. It was originally implemented, by the way, in Braamfontein and now here in Parkhurst. Why Parkhurst? I really don't know. But also due to be rolled out soon in many other Joburg suburbs. So the story's got wide-reaching effects for businesses and residents across 702 land. So I'm going to be hearing from representatives of residents, I'm going to be hearing from business owners and also from those employed by the ACE parking system.
702.
Well, welcome back to a live broadcast coming from Parkhurst. Now, we invited the head of the JMPD, Chris Nwolbo, to join me today, and he won't be commenting any further on this project, I don't know why, which he incidentally signed into existence back in 2009. Quite extraordinary. But the JMPD has promised to send us a statement as to the JMPD perspective this morning. It was supposed to be here at 12. By my watch, it is about 1:10. Absolutely nothing. In the meantime, this is what Chris Nwolbo had to say at their press conference last week.
We've learned our lessons out of the case that we had with the IPM. And we've settled with the case and we've finalized the case. And really we regard it as water under the bridge for now. That we've settled, we did all the things that we have to do. That's why the new parking meter system is different. There is no infrastructure required, as you know. It's just those people hired by ACE Parking. So our view is that we really accepted that there were certain things that we didn't do correctly and we had a settlement with IPM. Basically, with all parking meters, with all cities throughout the world, you go for business node, you go for high volume areas. In our specific area, we started with Braamfontein. We've moved to the Johannesburg CBD. In terms of the contract, we are at Parkhurst at the moment. We're going to be moving to Norwood, Melville, Collet Drive. In Collet Drive, we already had discussions and we've made surveys that it may not be necessary there. So every year we make surveys, we make assessment of the situation. From that place, we're going to be moving to Brixton, Imarentia, Rosebank, Roodepoort, Burnham, Parkview, Sentin, Florida, Volksburg. In Volksburg, for example, it's like Braamfontein before we introduced the meter system. Everybody parks anywhere. So the aim in Volksburg. In Volksburg, you have a lot of businesses that are food-related, fast foods. Everybody wants to come and buy and move away. So we will be targeting those specific nodes in Volksburg. Greenside, Linden, Rivonia, Craighall Park, Northcliffe. All these areas have to be surveyed and we have discussions with the people in the areas. ACE Parking together and ourselves, like we did in Braamfontein, 2 or 3 weeks before, we issue pamphlets, we issue statements, we do our best to engage. That's why for the first 2 weeks, we speak to the motorists. We don't issue a fine like we did in Braamfontein. So we believe that's the way to go. We've learned our lessons in Parkhurst. We're going to work with all the ward councillors so that we engage the ward councillors in the 2 weeks prior to installing the metering system. We are saying we are happy more than ever before to engage the communities, to engage the ward councillors, to make people understand. And we've got a living pilot. Our living pilot is Braamfontein. The Court Street, before we introduce the parking, you will not get any parking. Today you can go to the Court Street and get parking. So we want to engage. We want to engage. We want to hear what people are saying. Our own thinking is that if you control parking, it means the business should go up rather than down, because it means more people are going to be using the space. So we're really requesting the communities, including Parkhurst, if there are suggestions and proposals on how we can improve the parking, we're happy to engage.
Well, Chris and Molbo, if you are so anxious to engage, why aren't you sitting opposite me? Why have you suddenly gone quiet? Why are you simply not here? And why has that statement from the JMPD not arrived? And consulting the community doesn't mean to say not consulting your ward councillors, because you didn't. It actually means consulting the people who are living in the area. And just in case you've gone blind, Braamfontein bears absolutely no resemblance, either physically or in terms of size, with Parkhurst, two totally different animals. So I'm afraid it's back to square one for you, because that doesn't wash with any of us. Sitting next to me is the chair of the Parkhurst Resident Association, Cheryl Labuskaghni. And Cheryl, what is happening with this legal challenge? Are we going ahead with it? Just bring us up to speed.
Yeah, we should know by Monday exactly what the process is going to be. Now that the additional suburbs have been announced and it's become real for people across the city, they've suddenly galvanised into action, just as Parkhurst was galvanised into action a couple of months back. Tomorrow evening we have a meeting between lawyers representing the various areas, and we really need a think tank that will allow us to define the best possible strategy forward that will work across the city. That will be taken to the communities, and we'll vote on it on Monday, and from there we'll decide exactly what to do going forwards. It looks like legal action is becoming more and more the only option left to us.
Well, what is nice to hear is that there's a strong possibility that it won't be Parkhurst fighting its own battle, because this really is a battle in small communities where there have been very, very bad effects. I mean, we've experienced it firsthand. They are now going to be experiencing it firsthand. And just see how stupid this thing has been thought out. It just hasn't been thought out. I don't think anyone is objecting per se to a degree of regulation, or are you?
No, we've certainly been crying out to JMPD to come and do law enforcement sensibly and politely, and that just hasn't happened, as you well know. So we are very much in favour of regulated parking. There is even potentially the possibility to have paid parking where the money comes back into the community and improves the community that's paying for it.
A portion of the
Absolutely.
money. Yes.
So that's not a closed door, but it will have to be in consultation with the community, not imposed from above. And as you mentioned, it is not going to be Parkhurst fighting, most certainly not. It's going to be the world-class African citizens who have put together the WAC campaign, and it is a lobby group.
Have you by any chance heard from the Mayor, Parks Tower, on this at all? Has there been a statement from the Mayor? I haven't seen one, but I mean, I don't see everything, of course.
Certainly not. I've not heard anything from the city since we got their sorry for you letter back in February,
yes,
saying that they wouldn't look at any of our comments.
Yes, that's arrogance on a profound scale, and I'm amazed, because I would have loved them to have come to the party, especially after the e-tolls fiasco, where again people were not consulted, and people simply turned around and said, actually, this is not democracy, it's not good enough. So do you see parallels between the two?
Absolutely. It's although I think we've had even more, staggeringly more arrogance reflected back at us. There's been absolutely no attempt to engage with communities, and how the city of Johannesburg can have people stand up and blatantly lie about having consulted with the community is beyond me. They need to be held liable for that, if nothing else.
Cheryl, what do we want here in Parkhurst? R4 an hour parking. That would seem to me to be reasonable. Just take us through the thoughts.
Firstly, I think what we need is for the current contracts and agreements to be binned entirely.
Yes.
It's dodgy from what I can tell. There's certainly enough questions around exactly how it was put together, how it's rolled out. There's no protection for the people of the city should the parking contractor not do what they're supposed to do. The current scheme needs to be binned.
Okay.
Beginning and end. Looking forward, we certainly are open to looking at how the street can best be regulated for the benefit not only of the businesses in the area, but also for residents. We need to have respect for the public space, but we also need to encourage small businesses. Parkhurst is largely small businesses, not large chains, not massive shopping centres that are invested in by large pension funds. These are real lives. These are individual business owners who are supporting a number of families through the staff they employ, and that is at risk.
Well, we are going to be speaking to a couple of business owners, but I understand that some people are saying that their income is down by something between 20-25%, something like that.
Those are certainly the numbers I've been hearing, 20 to 30%. I've heard as high as 50%. But ballpark seems to be 20 to 30%, yes.
Which is significant if you're running a small shop.
It's highly significant. And, of course, it's the shops that are greatest, are mostly affected are the ones that are day trading. It is the butchery, it is the pharmacy, it is the bookshop, the sorts of places that really make this a community and not just a restaurant strip.
The same thing obviously is going to apply in both Melville and Norwood. You're asking for, when it's reinstated, R4 an hour parking, 15 to 20 minutes free parking for residents per day. Obviously residents would have to have stickers that are supplied by whoever is managing the scheme, discs in the car to identify us. Loading bays. It's outrageous that you actually are penalising shops from getting their goods to enable them to make money. I mean, who thought that up?
It's ridiculous. It's this whole thing about a one-size-fits-all approach. The CBD is quite clearly exactly like Parkhurst in the minds of the city, and I don't know which planet they're living on, but not on mine.
10 rand in every 100 rand obviously has to come to Parkhurst for the upkeep of pavements, which are in a very shabby condition.
At least.
Huge holes in the road. I gather that somebody was doing a little bit of work at their house the other day. They had a bit of extra tar left over, and they actually came along and filled in a hole, which, I mean, it'll collapse, of course, filled in a huge hole outside one of the shops, because it has been like that for years now.
Absolutely.
And just kindly, but they didn't have enough tar to fill in the other holes. So I mean, again, that's a big problem.
Which I think shows that people in Parkhurst are willing to contribute. It's not that we're saying we're not prepared to pay for anything that we get, but we want something in return.
10 rand in every 100 comes to Parkhurst, and in order to do that, of course, we've got to have sight of their books. But if this is legitimate, if there's nothing to hide, I cannot see that there would be a problem with it. It's only if there is something to hide.
Absolutely.
Cheryl, toilets and rest areas for workers?
There are offices in 6th Street, and my understanding is that the workers need to walk up to the offices in 6th Street should they need to make use of facilities.
Okie doke. Uniforms?
Well, the parking attendants should be fully uniformed. As we've seen, that's not really the case. Some of them have jackets. Most of them, I think, do have jackets. But they certainly do not have full uniforms, no.
All right. So what is the next step from your point of view as chair of the Parkhurst Residents Association?
We are, of course, vocal participants in the WAC group. And we're attending meetings. We were in Melville last night, where the Melville residents formally voted to become part of WAC and to take it forward. We're doing a lot of education around the city in terms of what it actually means. We can speak from experience. Unfortunately, we now also have gathered information which we didn't have at the beginning of the process in Parkhurst. So we're spreading the word, we're getting people on board, and watch this space next week.
Fantastic. I look forward to it. Cheryl Labuschagne, Chair of the Parkhurst Residents Association. Thank you very much indeed. Well, welcome back, and I've got empty parking all along the street in Parkhurst, but to the left-hand side of where I'm sitting from Vovotello, something is going on. An Eyewitness News reporter, Nastasia Tay, is there. And Nastasia, I don't know if you can hear me. All right, let's just see if we can get her. Hi there, Nastasia. Can you hear me? All right, we will go back to Nastasia, but I know that she wants to chat to us because apparently there's some kind of a demonstration. I certainly saw something very, very interesting going on as I came here, but we'll find out a little bit more in a few moments' time. In the meantime, I'm chatting to Paul Janssen, who is the owner of Parkhurst Hardware, and a more testosterone-filled shop in Parkhurst or in Johannesburg or probably South Africa. It would be difficult to find. Now, Paul, I normally come in in fact, I never call you Paul, I call you Doggy. So I normally come in on a Saturday morning, and you've got to fight to get in to Parkhurst Hardware, and you're all bellowing and pulling your chest hairs. What is the scene in Parkhurst Hardware at the moment?
Well, Parkhurst Hardware has gone very, very quiet. We have never basically had a chance to relax at all until obviously lately. The business has dropped by, I think, initially about 20. I think it's gone up a bit more to about 30% now in the last couple of weeks. And it's really, really shocking. And I think a lot of people are saying that, it's going to bring more people to Parkhurst and business will improve. The Metro Police have said.
Yes, that's Chris.
They must just come and ask anyone in this road if they think business has improved, because it's gone down. And I think we're less affected than most. The restaurants must be daytime trade about, 80% down.
Why do you think that is? Are visitors to Parkhurst not parking up and down the streets as opposed to on 4th Avenue?
Well, what we did see a lot of is guys pulling up. And the problem is also, it's one thing arriving at a parking when you get this guy in your face before you even out the car.
Yes.
There's someone at your door harassing you for money before you even got there. A lot of people just basically open the window, say, what do you want? Oh, you want money? They close the door of the window and just drive off again. They go somewhere else where they don't get harassed by people.
Okay, so you don't have signs in your shop, maybe. I mean, it's just a suggestion to say to people, well, in future, would you just park up the road or something, in which case you won't get charged?
Well, currently we're telling everyone to park where they want because there's still perfectly legal council signs up saying got 60 minutes of free parking.
Ah.
And the cops are every day to give people fines for parking perfectly legally in Parkhurst.
So you've got signs up saying free parking.
Yeah, the original council signs are all still up all along this road.
Well, then I'm sure that could be disputed, could it not?
Yeah, of course. And the actual ACE parking signs are illegally put on the poles. They're supposed to have council stickers on them. They are actually legal as signs, and as well as obviously the whole parking system.
So on a Saturday morning, if I were to go into Parkhurst Hardware, am I going to find the usual scrum of people, or am I going to notice that it's emptier? Because it is your busiest day, isn't it?
Well, Parkhurst, we a lot of the DIY guys, and in the week it's more trade.
Yes.
But Parkhurst, well, the hardware now, anytime, be it week or weekend, it's hardly what it used to be. I mean, most of the time there's not a person in the shop.
Okay, and that simply is because people are not parking or they're driving on, which is even more worrying.
And I'd rather, as millions of people have said, Hyde Park Corner, undercover, secure parking is cheaper than sitting in Parkhurst.
Yes, I mean, the rate at Hyde Park Shopping Centre is what?
I don't even know, but I know you get about 20 minutes free.
Yes, you do.
Which is the biggest issue, yeah, because nobody wants to sit and get harassed and pay $4 to walk into a hardware store and buy a paintbrush.
Yes.
And to go to the pharmacy or the butcher or any other place.
Yes, or the residents, of course,
Yeah.
have got no advantages at all. Okay, so you are hurting.
Sorry?
You are hurting.
Yeah, no,
not
big
you
time.
personally, but
Yeah.
I mean, you know, Parkhurst Hardware. All right, well, look, Paul, thank you very much indeed for that. I mean, I think it's a difficult situation, but I'm sure that reason is going to prevail. I mean,
Yeah.
I actually really do believe that,
Well, I hope
that
so,
reason will
because
prevail.
I used to call them the parking canaries. I'm now calling them the locusts. Because they come, they destroy, and when they've destroyed Parkhurst, they can't make any more money. They're just going to go away again.
I mean, you haven't had any difficult situations or anything like that, have you? I mean, any scenes with the parking attendants or with JMPD?
We have quite a few scenes with JMPD where they start ticketing people for parking legally in the street. And the guys start screaming, and actually half of the guys just drive off with the Metro cops still writing the ticket out.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. It sounds belligerent and unpleasant. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Thank you very much, Dougie.
Thanks,
Thank you
Jenny.
very much
Cheers.
indeed. Paul Janssen, owner of Parkhurst Hardware, and you can see some of the difficulties. And I dare say, if I were to interview other people from other shops, you probably would hear a similar story. Not quite so sure about the restaurants, but we'll find out ourselves about that.
FM. Call Jenny now on 011 883 0702.
Well, it's really nice to have you on board, and we're broadcasting live from the pavement outside Vovatello on 4th Avenue in Parkhurst. And sitting opposite me now is a visitor to Parkhurst, and he used to be a frequent visitor. And Victor Dlamini, he's no stranger to you guys. He often comes onto my book show, and he's also a columnist. And Victor, you basically live in Killarney, but you used to go for lazy or come for lazy breakfast to Parkhurst, presumably to Nice, to the Leopard, maybe to Vovatello. Are you saying that you're not doing that?
Well, I mean, one of my pleasures is to walk. So it was very wonderful to walk from Killarney to here.
Sorry, say that again.
From Killarney to Parkhurst, and one of the things was when it's not convenient to walk, then you take the car. But when I have to take the car, I go to Hyde Park simply because I find it extraordinary that, especially when I'm ordering a breakfast and all I want to do is just pick it up and go back home, you know, that I have to pay this ridiculous fee that has been introduced. It absolutely doesn't make any sense because there is no sense at all of flexibility. And you get this sense that it's almost like, I mean, I think for me the best government is the one which is invisible. This idea that somehow someone can just say arbitrarily, well, you pay now, you haven't been paying for a long time. And you're like, but I'm just, it says, well, you cannot leave the car unless you pay. I think more than anything else, what is annoying, which has made me go elsewhere, is this idea of total inflexibility. Even the malls, which are there to make money, if you are dropping someone off, there's the 15-minute rule that just says you can drop them off, you can pick your mail, you can drop the kids off wherever you want. So Parkhurst has gone from being one of the most beautiful villages with its open pavements where you come, grab a quick cappuccino or an espresso, or chill at night, have something to eat, or here, suddenly you have this sense of a place that you must avoid. And to be quite honest, when you add to everything else that's there, you know, the huge petrol price increases, the huge fuel increases, you get this sense where your rand is just shrinking.
Yes, and in fact that you are easy meat, basically. Yeah. I mean, you're easy prey. I mean, I think that's the feeling that I have a lot of the time. In terms of the parking fees, I think it's disproportionate in any event, because I think we're on a par with Hyde Park, except we've got holes in our road and Hyde Park Shopping Centre doesn't.
Well, you've got covered parking, and also for most of us, we go out on weekends when the malls are, which we were avoiding because of the lifestyle choice. Most of the malls are flat rate on weekends. So if it's even if it's 5 hours that you spend in the mall, chilling, watching a movie and doing whatever else, here it's still per hour. So there isn't even that flexibility. And above everything else, it just seems to be so arbitrary. And what infuriates me personally is when you then look at the mechanics of what these guys, Ace Parking, are getting for every rent that they collect. I mean, it's outrageous.
I think that out of every 100, at least in terms of percentages, they are taking away something like 75%. It is outrageous. Yeah. I don't know how they negotiated that.
Well, I think they probably have a friend in the city. But it seems, if you look at the possible loss to, I mean, many of the places that I go to, you used to struggle to get a seat. Now you can pretty much go at any time.
Oh, dear. Yeah. What's going to bring you back?
Well, I just think that they have to come to their senses and just say, I mean, what are the benefits? It's the jobs. It's also the taxes that they collect here. This is a classic case of killing the goose that laid the golden egg, you know.
Would you be prepared to pay parking but on a much lower level?
Well, I think so. But also, if it was just, if it was, my sense is that if the rate was reasonable and also there was that flexibility for people who want to pick stuff up, you know, then,
in other words, if you come in for a takeaway, you come to grab a newspaper or something like that.
Yeah, you know, that's what will bring me back. But also, I just think that, you know, there has to be this sense. We are already seeing what happens when government, especially local government, which is the one that affects you the most, when you have this sense that there are people sitting in a room, in a committee, who are making these decisions. I think it's plainly annoying, you know. So if at least they consulted us and we had some sense. And from the rumors that I hear, they want to unleash this parking tidal wave across many of these suburbs where many of us live. So I'm afraid it's going to be a problem that is going to get worse. So imagine with our weather having to be stuck again back in malls because you're running away from this arbitrary situation.
Or is parking so far from your venue, you know, sort of up and down the streets, that you're going to be walking for half an hour before you actually get there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, look, I mean, I think it is an example of what happens when you don't consult with people, but also where it hasn't been thought through. So I would love to think that the city would actually say, okay, we need to think this through and let's start from beginning, because we're calling for it to be scrapped and to start from scratch.
Well, let them surprise us, and then they will see a thriving, you know, this village will thrive again. And I think those of us who love it so dearly will come back and embrace it.
It's a lovely bohemian little place to come to.
Yeah, exactly.
Victor Dlamini, thank you very much indeed.
Thanks, Jenny.
Thank you so much. So a patron or a former patron of Parkhurst, that's really, really sad. Let's try now Natasha Tay and to tell us what is going on at the left-hand, or on my left-hand side, and this would be opposite, more or less opposite, I think, Mug and Bean, going down towards Nice. And I did see a whole lot of umbrellas. I did see some artificial grass, but beyond that, I have absolutely no idea of what's happening. Natasha, maybe you can fill us in.
civilized protest I've ever seen. I'm standing on AstroTurf in the middle of 4th Avenue next to mid-century modern armchairs, fresh flowers, people sipping cappuccinos on the side of the road. It's very informal, it's very peaceful, and with me are several different shop owners. Local shop owner Kesh is standing right next to me. Kesh, what are we doing here?
It's a peaceful protest against the paid parking scheme. So a lot of us traders are just occupying the pavements in front of our shops, hanging out, doing our usual day thing, but just outside on the street. Day in the sun, really nice.
Fabulous. I'm also with local cafe owner Carla, and I've been asking her about what they're trying to achieve and, what if the Metro Police come? Carla, will you stick around if they arrive with their cars and sirens blazing?
Of course. It's like being back in the 80s. We're prepared to sit here until they agree to a appropriate form of public participation. The thing that we're really also trying to achieve is, of course, paid parking is required in CBDs, and we understand that. What we don't understand is why 75% of the revenue is being given away to private racketeers. And if they were retaining that revenue in council for community projects and services and training of our youth, it wouldn't be necessary to force extra tax down into multiple suburbs for their private rackets. And that's what we're hoping to achieve with this responsible management of our money, because it's our money.
Jenny, I think it's going to be a pretty long but very, very colourful afternoon here on 4th Avenue.
All right, so the umbrellas that I saw and that sort of the green turf that I saw and the chairs and the tables, that's shop owners are all sitting there in the sun and just having a good time.
Having a good time, but I have to say that they are pretty angry too. They really are making a point. They're saying this is a show of passive resistance. What they've created a little sort of private areas in front of each shop. They're calling them parklets, based on something which they developed in San Francisco as a form of protest there. And the whole idea is to occupy their space, make it very much their own, and say that they're here to stay, and they need to be consulted if anything is going to change in Parkhurst.
All right, Nastasia, thank you very much indeed. Eyewitness News reporter Nastasia Tay. I'd like to play another clip from JMPD head Chris Ngobo. He wants to talk to us, but he's not here. And this was sourced at the press conference last week.
The system that we're using is not unique to Johannesburg. It's being used in Cape Town, it's being used in Uppington, it's being used in Bloemfontein. Basically, it does not have the same overhead as the old system, where you literally have to dig the road and put up a particular system. Now, we're really making a special request to the media. We're saying that we've been very successful in Bloemfontein. Remember what ultimately we want to achieve as the city. We want to achieve free flow of traffic. You must remember the 8.2 million cars that are in South Africa. 3.2 of them are in Johannesburg. So there's more cars in Johannesburg than any other city in South Africa. So in terms of management, we've got to make sure that when we do point duty, people are able to pass, to park and move. In the past in Bloemfontein, people were parking for the whole day. I mean, we have a living example of what can be achieved. The same as Fortsburg. In Fortsburg, it's to our interest as the city to make the business people happy. If the business people are happy, they're going to pay the rates, they're going to pay the water. So we want to work. Imagine any city that does not want to work together with their business people. There's no city that does that. So we want to work with business people. If there are suggestions on how to improve the situation, whether it's in Fortsburg or Parkhurst or Randburg, we want to work with those communities to improve the situation, because we really want the cars to come in the morning and the cars to move all the time, because the economy of Johannesburg, it's about movement and nothing else.
Well, that was Chris Ngobo, JMPD head. And if you have got any thoughts on it, please give me a call. The number to dial is 8830702. In fact, let's go to Temba. And Temba is... Hi there, Temba. Thanks for calling.
Hi, Jen. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing so well. I'm sitting outside. I mean, there are worse things to do.
You lucky thief. Listen, Jen, Mr. Ngobo just said right now that there will be no cost to infrastructure or anything like that.
Yes.
And 2.5 weeks ago, while listening to the John Robbie show in the morning, they had Mr. Tokwana on the radio, who said that when he was asked why does the Johannesburg Metropolitan Municipality only receive 22% of the total amount. He says it's because they have to invest in infrastructure. So it's very...
Well, I don't know what the infrastructure is, but I'm sure that they'll elucidate that, because we can't see any infrastructure.
And if really the government was serious about job creation like they say they are, I think it would make better sense if they took people and employed them full-time to collect the revenue, and everything goes to the municipality. Not that I am agreeing with this paid parking system, but, it would make better sense if they employed people to collect it.
Temba, thank you very much indeed. Thanks for your input. And we're just going to have a quick word with Wendy in Sandton. Hi there, Wendy.
Hi there. Hi. Thank you for taking my
hi there.
call. I'm a frequent visitor to Parkhurst and also incensed about this parking tariff. What happens if we just refuse? All of us just refuse to pay.
Well, it's quite interesting, Wendy. On a normal day, this place is full of JMPD, and they are there to deal with people like you. So you say that you're not going to pay, and you'll get lifted up by your elbows. You'll be fined 200 Rand immediately. They're bullies, but it's effective. So it's not as if this is a nice battle, because it isn't.
Because I just thought if there was an en masse refusal to pay, imagine the paperwork of trying to get fines to everybody.
Yes.
But
well, I think
they've got to back up.
Yeah. Well, but there are ways. I think what we're doing is the right thing, and it's legal, and it's thought out as well. So, so we'll see. But anyway, Wendy, thank you so much for your call.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, love. Thank you so much. All right, coming up in a moment, we're chatting to Stephen Logan, who is a consumer law specialist, but he's also the managing director at Logan Attorneys. And we've been speaking to him a great deal over the last few months in terms of the city's inability to get correct billing out to some 60,000 residents of Johannesburg. And Stephen and Logan Attorneys have been at the foremost of that battle, and we'll refer to that briefly when he comes and sits down next to me. Coming up. All right, back here in Parkhurst, on 4th Avenue, Parkhurst, and I must say the coffee's flowing, the tea's flowing, and I've just had a little bit earlier on the most amazing Prego roll. Please don't stop coming to Parkhurst. Just park up and down the streets, and then you won't have to pay the JMPD. Brian, you want to comment on paid parking?
Jenny, this buffoon is representing the traffic or whatever, the system. He doesn't know what he's talking about. The whole traffic system in the city is all about controlled stops, certainly not controlled movement or flow.
Yes.
You go from one traffic light to the next, and you spend endless hours, man hours, wasting time. There's no flow involved. It's all about stopping. That's my comment.
All right, Brian, thank you very much indeed. That's appreciated. And everybody else, remember the lines are always open, 883-0702. Today, SMSing is a little bit difficult because I'm sitting outside and I don't have access to that. But Steve, hello.
Hi there.
Now, is that Steve Logan?
No, it's not.
No. Okay, I beg your pardon. Okay, Steve.
All right. You know what? This is a very similar attitude that's been taken to what was done with the e-tolls, and you know, I think it's about time that people actually start standing up to it. South African society has been a very, very accepting society for a very, very long time. My point that I'm really trying to make is, what would happen if actually people refused to pay? They got their tickets, they'd clog up the courts, summonses would take ages to issue, whatever. Instead of them actually just turning around and starting to negotiate, it's not that the majority of people who go to Park Mall and all these places cannot afford to pay it. It's more about the kind of apartheid attitude or nationalist government attitude of, you will do this, you will do that. And I think more than anything else, the ANC government should know that better than more than anybody else.
All right, Steve, thank you very much indeed. And the reason why we are doing this broadcast is because 702 and Lead SA believe in citizens being active citizens in their communities. And really that is the background to this whole thing. And I think it's really why I think that this is growing, and I think it's healthy. And I really appreciate you giving us a call. Thank you, Steve. All right, now we're going to be speaking to consumer law specialist and the managing director at Logan Attorneys, Communities. That's Stephen Logan. And Stephen, thank you very much indeed for joining us. It's been a while since we spoke to you, but of course we were having long conversations about paying bills being cut off, your electricity being cut off because you got a bill for 85,000 rand, and had no way of redress with the city council. And here we are with another thing that we're dealing with. And I want to speak to you as a consumer law specialist. And first of all, welcome to the show, Stephen.
Thank you.
Stephen, please.
Jenny, you asked me previously what I thought in terms of the Consumer Protection Act consumers could do.
Yes.
And in reading through the Act, I came across Section 63, which talks about prepaid services and prepaid vouchers and certificates. And that, in effect, is what a parking ticket is, because you are paying for it. I understand the new system is you pay for it up front.
Yes.
And they have to then give you the service of allowing you to park.
Yes.
It seems to me that they've forgotten the requirements of the Consumer Protection Act, which require that they actually hold the money in trust, and they keep that parking space available for you for a particular period of time. So I think that they've got a huge practical problem, because they're going to have to keep a huge number of deposits, as it were, in trust for the consumer, and keep the parking spaces open if the consumer leaves that parking space early. So I think that's a practical problem that the municipality hasn't considered. That would be a requirement that would flow out of the Consumer Protection Act. And the second thing that I mentioned in our email correspondence was that I think that there's a common law principle called estoppel, which requires that if you make a representation constantly, as the municipality has done, that these parking bays are actually free of charge,
yes,
then you can't go back. You are stopped. You are prevented from actually making a claim for monies, because you've previously represented to the contrary, that consumers can make use of these bays without having to pay. So I think that those are two very strong legal grounds on which consumers could challenge this type of parking, imposition of parking fees.
How difficult would it be for an individual consumer to do it as opposed to an entire suburb?
Well, as with the billing crisis, it's usually better to try and do something on behalf of a class of people, and submit a complaint to the Consumer Protection, National Consumer Commission, on behalf of a class or on behalf of a suburb. But there's nothing to stop individuals doing it. And quite frankly, as I said before on the John Robbie show, it's really just a form that you can download from the internet. It's an annexure to the Consumer Protection Act and the regulations thereto, and it's a relatively straightforward process to initiate a complaint.
Would this be the sort of complaint that you'd put to Thuli Madonsela?
I think that she would be very interested in this type of complaint, because it obviously affects a significant number of people. It has the potential to set a precedent with regards to parking across the country. And I think it's one of those worthy type of principle-setting cases which she'd be keen to establish a precedent on.
So, I mean, this is fantastic and fascinating, and of course I'd like to discuss it at length with you, and there isn't time to do that now. But in your opinion, the absence of public consultation on the implementation of such a paid parking system, even without the Consumer Protection Act, etc., surely public consultation is not just handing out the odd notice that they say they have done. I mean, I live in Parkhurst. I've never received any notification at all. I mean, would that be considered public consultation?
Well, the Consumer Protection Act doesn't go into any detail as to what is public participation or that type of thing. So I've limited my answers to something else. But I think in terms of what you're raising now, it's clearly not sufficient to just impose something, especially when it's brand new. It hasn't been done before in that suburb. And on what basis is it being done? You've got absolutely no community buy-in. So I think that would be an issue, but Whether that would be the issue on which to base a legal challenge, I'd have my doubts. I'd prefer to go on substantive law issues or raise something as strong as a common law estoppel.
All right, fascinating discussion. Paul, Stephen, thank you very, very much indeed for chatting to us. We're out of time. I appreciate your time, and you've given us lots and lots of room for thought. Thank you so much.
Pleasure. Bye-bye.
Stephen Logan, Consumer Law Specialist and Managing Director at Logan Attorney.
Residents and shop owners have taken to the streets around Parkhurst's 4th Avenue in a peaceful protest against the recent implementation of a paid parking scheme there. They've set up camp in parking spots along the main road, demanding a re-evaluation of the system, including more revenue for local councils. Nastasia Tay is there.
It's a busy afternoon on Parkhurst's 4th Avenue, but where the street would normally be lined with cars, there's AstroTurf. Local residents and shop owners have turned out to protest with vintage armchairs, porcelain teacups and fresh flowers. They're peacefully occupying the parking spaces that Ace Parking manages on the main restaurant strip to show their resistance to what they say is a private revenue-generating scheme. They're demanding more consultation with the community and a better use of taxes to benefit local councils. One cafe owner says they're willing to face arrest if the police show up. Nastasia Tay, Eyewitness News, Parkhurst.
Good citizens don't get medals, but there are awards. Lead SA.
You're listening to Jenny Crwys Williams on Talk Radio 702.
702.
Your number one news and talk station.
I am broadcasting live from the pavement outside Vovatello in the High Street, which of course is 4th Avenue in Parkhurst. And it's really, really interesting because I'm never around at this time of day. So it is the first time I've actually seen Parkhurst at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and there are hardly any cars at all. Sitting opposite me, there are 1, 2, 3, 4 cars, but there are no parking bays, so nobody can find them. But the rest, it's sporadic, and I can see why business owners are very, very concerned. So unless members of the public are parked up and down the streets, which I suspect they can, I just can't look into the streets from where I'm sitting, then Parkhurst is pretty damn deserted, and it bears no resemblance whatsoever to Braamfontein. This is a small residential suburb and filled with very, very small shops, and they need quite a substantial turnover in terms of people coming in, and I think that they're relying mostly on Saturday trade from what I can see. Anyway, it's coming to other parts of Johannesburg, so what about the suburbs that have been earmarked for the expansion of this JMPD paid parking plan? So we're going to be hearing from some of them coming up after this.
Call Jenny now on 011 883 0702.
Well, Norwood is one of the suburbs that is next in the sights of the JMPD gun. And I've got two guests who are from Norwood, and that's Ida Meltzer, who's chairperson of the Norwood Orchards Residents Association, and also Nick Obel, who is chairman of the Grant Avenue CID Committee. So both of you, welcome to Talk Radio 702.
Thank you.
I want to start with you, Ida. You gathered 500 signatures in 1 hour on Grant Avenue on Sunday. That's a very big pickup.
Yes. We had petition forms, Marcel Ravid, our ward councillor, and myself. We had some signs up. I stood holding them. We had a full demo, just the two of us. People were just stopping their cars on the side, jumping out, quickly giving us a signature and carrying on. It was the support was fantastic. We were very excited. I'm very excited about South Africans, the way we're suddenly standing up on our hind legs and saying enough. The same as we did on the e-tolling, and now we're going to roll this out in all the suburbs. We've had meetings here in Parkhurst. Nick and I came on Saturday morning. We had a meeting with 6 other suburbs up at the Mug and Bean, and their lawyers giving us pro bono time, who are going to take this up the legal route. Yes, and it was a wonderful meeting, and Councillor Tim, your councillor, gave us a walkabout up and down the street to show us what's going on and
the empty shops
and the way people don't want to park here. But also he told me something interesting. I heard you talking about it earlier, that the JMPD are being bullies behind Ace Parking, but people are intimidated because it's a JMPD. But if you take your fine, if you refuse to pay your R8 and take your fine, you're never going to see a summons. And even if you try and pay it at the fines department, wherever in town, it's not linked up, because the whole thing is allegedly illegal, and there's no link up. So there's going to be no comeback. You're actually not going to have to pay. But people don't know that.
Yes, I think that's going to be explored, and obviously there'll be more publicity if that is proven to be the fact.
Yes.
I'm just looking at some of the posters.
Yes.
And these are the ones that I think we put up in Parkhurst.
Yes.
Scheme or swindle. Object to the ACE parking scheme by depositing your receipt in a receipt pod.
Yes.
And know where your money is going, which of course we don't know where the money is going, but I can see a receipt pod, so that's where you put your thing, and you're taking a stand for fair tax and treatment, and park for free halfway up our side streets. But even if you do decide to do that in Parkhurst and possibly in Norwood in the not too distant future, ditto Melville, please be aware that JMPD, which has not been seen in Parkhurst for 12 years, is now walking up the streets. They cannot fine you for parking, but they are anybody with an out-of-date license, anybody with a scratch or something like that, they are ticketing. So please beware. If you come to Parkhurst and presumably Norwood in the not too distant future, you better have your pay your license fees in advance. Otherwise, you will get a fine, because I see them, and I live on one of the streets, and I see them going up and down the whole time.
Yes.
So really what, Ada, just going back to you as chairperson of the Norwood Orchards Residents Association, if you look up and down the street, this actually is probably Grant Avenue in Norwood in the not too distant future.
Yes. People demonstrate with their feet, so they just will not park there, because no one now wants to pay. R8 an hour is iniquitous, especially as it's not going towards uplifting our suburb at all. It's going into...
Not a penny comes to the suburb.
Nothing. It's going into people's pockets.
Yes.
We do everything in Norwood ourselves. I have 2 young chaps from Soweto. One of them's my gardener. Once a month they spray the pavements for weeds. Every second year we've had stencils made. We paint the street names. We sweep. We clean. I've got a contact at Pick It Up. If there's been dumping, I ask him to come. I go and see the headmaster of the primary school, Norwood Primary School, to talk to the children, not to litter on the pavement, so on. I'm like the housekeeper in Norwood. We're doing everything ourselves. We're getting nothing from council.
Well, I think that we feel the same here in Parkhurst. Let's go to Nick Obel, who's chairman of the Grant Avenue CID committee. Now, Nick, Grant Avenue, I think it's the same as Parkhurst. It's very intense. It's very sort of packed in area. I was there the other night. I was there for supper and whatever. But could that community tolerate the stress of empty streets and people maybe not coming in? That much surely would be a problem in Norwood. All small businesses.
Thanks, Jenny. Thanks for inviting me onto your show. Grant Avenue, like many of these older suburbs in Johannesburg, is very unique in terms of it being a high street and a different shopping experience. And it's been dramatically affected already by new shopping centres being built up, Melrose Arch and shopping malls.
Yes, yes.
So we have already suffered quite a dramatic effect in terms of trade on the avenue. The knock-on effect of paid parking, I think, is going to be extreme. It could well be the death knell for the traders. Trading has been difficult as it is. I think we are doing everything we can to stimulate the trade, but I don't think we're going to be able to. As you can see, if you look up and down Parkhurst, the effect on the traders is dramatic, and Parkhurst, in fact, is a stronger trading node.
Because we've got more variation, I think, in the shops in Parkhurst than you have in Grant Avenue.
I think there's more variation in the shops. I think it's a different type of trading environment. I think Grant Avenue has got a different type of trader. And parking has always been a critical issue in Grant Avenue, as it has in Parkhurst as well.
Yes.
And in fact, as difficult it is now without paid parking, has been detrimental to trade in the area. So in fact, what we should be doing is making it as easy as possible for people to shop in the area as opposed to
for
charging
traders.
and making.
I mean,
the cost should not be underestimated. That R8.50 is a significant number.
And also, I mean, that's more or less what you pay if you go to Melrose Arch, for God's sake. And you've got guards, you've got comfortable parking, you're relatively secure. Our incidence of crime in the high street has also gone up. So that's something else that you've got to take. I understand it's gone up, yes.
Tim told me that.
And I think, I mean, you can't see behind you, but we've got an express vehicle that delivers things all over the place. Well, they're not parking in certified parking because they'll be asked to pay. But he's going to stop here for about 2 minutes and then he'll drive on. So consequently, we've got sort of traffic problems. But listen, the Norwood Orchards Residents Association are trying again to establish a city improvement district, the CID, in the node. And this scheme it doesn't bode well for the required 51%, as I understand it, of landlords for the CID in order to get it to go ahead in the first place.
You see, I think, Jenny, what it is we've been very dedicated to uplifting Norwood for a long time. There's a group of very concerned commercial property owners who have been attempting for some time now to convince all of the property owners to combine their resources and really take control of the commercial district. That, in the face of diminishing trade environments and economic slump, has meant that we're putting more strain on those property owners' pockets, but by virtue of the fact that we're going to be essentially increasing their rates burden, because these are cleaning and security services which would otherwise be expected from the city of Johannesburg. Be that as it may, if there's a knock-on effect on the commercial retailers and they suffer vacancies and those retailers are unable to afford their rentals, there simply won't be sufficient funds to pull off the CID. So the knock-on effect will be that we'll be unable to bring in the upliftments.
It's very depressing when you talk about it, sort of these small business owners, and we keep going on, of course, about encouraging private enterprise, but really what this is doing is discouraging it in a very emphatic way.
And people are going to lose jobs.
Yes. So for you, what does the near future hold? When is the parking being introduced?
They tell us the 1st of June, although we've had no letters and our councillor Ravid has had no notification. We're hearing this through the media.
And clearly you've had no public meetings with the JMPD or with the city or with the city itself.
Nobody.
So there's no consultation.
Nothing.
So you actually don't know.
Absolutely nothing.
You don't know.
And Councillor Marcel has written and said, please give me details, give me information, what is happening. No replies for months now, because we've heard about it since it started here in Parkhurst at the beginning of the year. Nothing, not a reply even.
Well, it's very worrying. Householders in Norwood, if they are already trickling to Melrose Arch, this actually basically could kill Grant Avenue.
Yes.
But I mean, one would hope not, because you've got a service station there, you've got a little hotel there, you've got lots of eateries that are lovely, and people come specially.
Jenny, we in fact own the hotel there. We revived that hotel.
Okay.
So we invested ourselves significant money into Grant Avenue. The prospect of a 30 to 50% dip in turnover is something that concerns us dramatically. In fact, it could potentially take us out of business. So if that's what's happening, if that's what's going on in my mind as a trader and property owner, smaller businesses than that, I think, are significantly challenged and may not survive. I don't think we should be too hysterical that it would be the death knell for Grant Avenue is maybe just being too hysterical. But one should not underestimate the fact that there are already quite significant vacancies on the avenue. We struggle to attract it.
Well, we've got a downturn. We do have an economic downturn.
Yes.
So, well, I think the key thing is for all of the suburbs to work together. I think that is the key thing to do.
That's what we are trying to do. So we had this meeting together on Saturday morning. Last night there was a meeting in Melville. All the suburbs are rolling out meetings. We're getting in touch with attorneys in each suburb, and we are working together. And this initiative, we all going to the WACC
Yes, that is where
Yes.
you put your receipt,
Yes.
you deposit your parking receipt
Yes.
to object to the ace
Yes.
parking scheme.
Yes.
That's what you're
Yes.
going to do. All right. Well, listen. Time is going to tell whether this is successful or not, and whether democracy stands up against a badly thought out scheme. Or whether people capitulate, but let's see. And I want to thank both of you for coming. Thank you very much indeed.
Thanks for giving us your time, Jenny.
So that's Ida Meltzer, chairperson of the Norwood Orchards Residents Association, and Nick Obel, who's chairman of the Grant Avenue CID Committee, and they are trying to establish again a city improvement district, and I wish them well with that. Well, Eyewitness News reporter Nastasia Tay is with me. And Nastasia, you were able to see, I can see now that because there's absolutely no parking, I can see now what you were talking about. All of those umbrellas, that sort of artificial grass, and lots of tables and chairs where shop owners, I'm assuming, have been sitting. Are they just going to leave it like that? I mean, what is the process?
Well, in fact, I think they've had such a lovely afternoon. They've been talking about doing it tomorrow and possibly the day after that. Look, I think that they were making a point today. They're occupying their space in their suburb to make the point that they need to be included in any decisions that are made that should involve them. So no, it's been a very sunny afternoon, very colourful afternoon. Lots of people sipping tea on the sidewalk and having fat chats with their neighbours. But also, it wasn't just shop owners. It was residents who also came out who live here and wanted to support the shop owners in their protest, because a lot of residents feel very similarly.
Yes.
We often forget that, if they do start, they have started paid parking along the main street, people then start parking more and more down residential streets. So residents are equally affected as well as shop owners.
Yes, and I mean, I have a bird's eye view of the JMPD walking up and down the streets, and my goodness, if your license has expired, they are ticketing everybody. So everybody be warned, get your parking tickets up to date, but at least the parking, your license discs up to date. Otherwise, you'll be had.
Absolutely. I mean, we were actually quite surprised to not see the JMPD here.
There's not a sign of them.
No, not at all.
No one.
I assume they were rather busy in the CBD.
Or something, with people throwing rocks at each other. So what is the outcome of this? Are they going to leave it there? Are they going to continue it tomorrow? Are they going to pack up tonight and bring it out? It's quite effective.
I think today was more of a symbolic gesture, and I think they really have made their point. And there were also lots of councillors and people from very engaged with the local community who were here and speaking to residents. I think it was a one-day thing. I wouldn't put it past them doing it again. And I know from speaking to councillors from other areas as well, from Melville, from Greenside, that they are actually planning on doing fairly similar things there as well if they do go ahead with the parking scheme there.
All right. Well, I think there's no doubt that they will go ahead. Have you had a chance to chat to the parking attendants?
Absolutely.
And if so, tell us what they've been saying.
Well, I think we all too often put them into a box. We see them in their big fluoro yellow jackets, and we don't really look past that. And there's been a lot of anger about the whole parking scheme. A lot of that has been directed at the parking attendants, many of whom are just trying to do their jobs. So today I went and spoke to a whole load of them here to get a bit of an idea as to what their lives are like and what their days are like. And this is what some of them said about what they actually would rather be doing rather than being parking attendants.
As my career, I want to be an electrical engineer, because as I'm here, I'm working here, it's because of I need the money to go to university, because my parents, they don't have the money to take me go there to university. At hospital, my subject I'm doing it's about electrical engineering. Because since I was young, I like to be someone up, so it's my vision.
Actually, I wanted to be a less surveyor, so I didn't just achieve it, so I gave up.
If you could not be a parking guard, what would you want to do?
Nurse.
A nurse? Why a nurse?
Me, I've always looked at the person like clean, like nothing. Somebody crack, I'm cleaning. Always I like, for myself, I need for nothing. Because of the money, I don't have to go to the school. But metric, I have in a metro.
And I mean, one of the interesting things, Jenny, was that a lot of them that I spoke to said that they've had all these dreams and hopes, and this is really just a means to an end. They're trying to save up to go to university. A lot of people are doing the job. A lot of the parking attendants are doing this job for the money. They're not here as part of the sort of ideology of paid parking. They're not here to support the city. They're here simply to be able to support their families and support themselves. Now, in terms of what they actually earn, it's not a great deal.
That's what I want to ask. I mean, do they get a salary? Because I've been told that they don't.
They do get a salary,
okay.
and that's actually very different to some of the other areas in the city. So in the city and in Braamfontein, my understanding is that they're not paid a salary there. They're paid commission, so they get 15% of whatever they collect in terms of parking fees. Now in Parkhurst, and there was actually a parking guard who moved to Parkhurst because here they get paid 1,800 rand a month, and then on top of that they get this 15% commission. So the ones here are better off than in other areas in the city. Having said that, 1,800 rand isn't a great deal of money.
No.
And bearing in mind they do work 5.5 days a week, so they start every morning at 8, they work till 4:30, they work a half day on Saturdays as well, and a lot of them also said that they've spent months and months looking for jobs. One of them said he'd spent 6 months, another one spent 2 years unemployed,
so
looking for absolutely.
I mean, I was very moved by those people that you spoke to. I mean, a quantity surveyor, a nurse, an engineer. I mean, they're just such ordinary dreams, aren't they? But they're so difficult to achieve.
Absolutely, and I think what we often forget to think about is that they are people too. As much as we may be angry about the scheme, or angry about Ace Parking, or angry about the way the tender was carried out, or no consultation, or whatever the case may be, they're often at the front line of that anger. So I actually asked them how they feel about their jobs, and this is what they said.
I'm not enjoying it because a lot of people are accusing the shouted eyes, something like that, and then I'm not feeling well when I'm working. The people not happy. It's like that. Maybe they're selling on me, and then they say I want to pay. This is not legal, something like that. But I don't know because I'm just doing my job. They don't want us here. Something like that. But I don't like to work for people who don't want me in front of them, something like that. It's painful to me. The problem is for company, it's not for me. I mean, I'm just doing my work. That's all.
People, a lot of people were treating us badly, I wasn't expected to do those things like they can treat us like that, I thought maybe they can just understand to pay instead of refusing. They were cheating us. Some of them, they used to just run away with them from us without paying and leaving the cars without doing anything, They're taking us so cheap. They're taking advantage of us because we won't do anything. They're calling us thieves and everything, but we don't have choice. Some of them, they are angry with us because they hate these things.
The best thing, they are motorists, they hit him, they cheat him always. They don't want to pay here because they say this is not illegal, it's a law. Say I can't pay the parking, it's a free parking here. They tell me, look at the board, 60 minutes free, say I can't pay. And never, I can't pay it. They tell me always. So I'm not happy for that because if you don't want to pay, sometimes they give me the money at the end of the month, I don't know.
And I mean, that is one of the problems, whether or not, the parking attendants themselves aren't sure if they're going to get paid at the end of the month if people don't pay them. So there is this element of lack of communication, and that whole lack of communication, I think, permeates through the community as well, because the community, in their anger, have nowhere to channel it. There's no one for them to speak to, there's no hotline for them to complain to, and so a lot of that's just taken out on the people who are just trying to punch out their little receipts.
Well, they're the people in the front line. I mean, and quite obviously it's very difficult for them. But on a Saturday morning when the street is very busy, you often see people who arrive probably to get a cup of coffee or something, and they are bewildered that they're being asked to pay. And you can see that there is anger. So, I can say, I feel very sorry for them. It just It's very humbling, that.
I mean, one of the things that a lot of the residents and shop owners here have been saying is that, I mean, they do work this 5.5-day week, but primarily Parkhurst gets really busy at night, and when all the restaurants and cafes are really busy, they're busy on weekends. But at the same time, the parking attendants are here during the sort of quieter times of the day, and so, you know, you've got shop owners and residents trying to park away from the main street. At the pharmacy, they were saying that they've noticed a huge increase in terms of the deliveries that they're being asked to make, because no one wants to come and collect things anymore. And, you know, problems with, like, pensioners trying to go and collect their medication because they can't walk very far,
yes.
and they don't want to have to pay for parking
yes.
either. So, you know, there are lots and lots of knock-on effects within the community, and I think it's not been terribly strategically rolled out, and there are lots of ways of possibly improving it if there was more of a conversation going on.
Yes, I mean, I think the tactic appears to be, from the conversations I've had today, is to get this halted, to start, to have conversations, and to roll it out so that it's effective, it's legal, and there is buy-in. And that's, I mean, the lesson of this is consult the communities you think you represent. And I think that's the big lesson.
I mean, one of the councillors that I was chatting to from one of the other areas where it's likely to be rolled out, well, is due to be rolled out on the 1st of June, they were saying that, you know, the city has been saying there has been this public consultation process going on, and that went on before the bylaw sort of back in 2009 was approved. Now, that certainly did go on, I think, back then. Now it's a lot of new councillors who weren't around in 2009, but at the same time, a lot of that consultation went on around areas in the CBD and areas in Braamfontein. And I think a lot of people who represented communities in suburbs were under the impression that it was going to be rolled out in just those areas.
Yes, indeed.
And now that it's being rolled out in 20 areas around the city, you can't tar everyone with the same brush.
It needs to be. I mean, these are tiny businesses here. They can't stand the strain. I mean, quite clearly they can't. Anyway, this is something that is going to go on. Thank you very much indeed. And Nastasia Tay, thank you so much. I hope you've had a good day in Parkhurst.
It's probably been the most fun protest that I've ever covered.
All right, let's go to Catherine Corrie, who is property manager at Play in Braamfontein. Hi there, Catherine.
Hi, Jenny.
Catherine, what is Play?
Jenny, at the moment we're trying to redevelop this part of Braamfontein close to Drita Street and the Beer Street and try and draw more people into this part of the CBD. And it can be some kind of an urban regeneration and a renewal and draw people to bring their businesses back here. So obviously the system has provided quite a challenge to us in terms of the appeal to the area. We have to get out of the car and pay R8 per hour, which is basically half the price of a coffee, as we're trying to encourage you to come downtown and have.
I mean, the times I've been to Braamfontein, I certainly used to come. I haven't been since these parking, I don't know whether you've got meters or just the parking attendants. But I've heard that at the neighbourhood market on a Saturday, people can incur bills of 15, 25 rand or something like that, and they are quite taken aback. Is there a problem in Braamfontein, or is it working relatively well?
That it's actually been a huge problem for our tenants as well as the neighbourhood market from the beginning, and I think the problem is threefold. The first being that nobody engaged with any of us kind of property owners from the beginning, and that was a big problem. So when the ACE parking guards arrived on the street, it was a big surprise for all of us. And for the small entrepreneurs that are trying to start businesses, it was a huge knock to them because there's a very little amount of parking in Braamfontein. So street parking is really the only option. And then
So, Catherine, sorry, you're breaking up. So was it as much a surprise to you? I'm surprised. So there were no public meetings even in Braamfontein?
Absolutely not. It was a total surprise. I think there was one flyer that went out beforehand, and that was about the extent of it.
So what are you doing about it? Do you just accept that it will continue, or are you also part of the outrage?
No, we were definitely a part of it from the beginning, but we don't have the same kind of following because most of the businesses are big businesses who have their own private parkades. So as soon as the problem was moved to Parkhurst, we knew that there would be a bigger uproar because it affects more people in the suburbs. So we've basically been working with the Parkhurst Residents Association and trying to give them as much information as we can so that a precedent can be set where we have more people on board trying to look at how we can fix this.
Catherine, thank you very much indeed for chatting to us. I really appreciate it. Catherine Corrie, property manager at Play in Braamfontein. All right, so, I mean, it's quite obvious that what Chris and Molbo says is a shining example, i.e. Braamfontein, is definitely not a bed of all roses, and they're also cross because they have not been consulted. Therein lies a huge lesson. It's the e-toll lesson, you know, on a smaller scale, but my goodness, people are cross. All right, well, let's go to the chairperson of the Fordsburg, I think it is of the Fordsburg Business Forum. That's Yusuf Sidat. Hello, Yusuf.
Hello, Jenny. How are you? And thanks for having me on the show.
Well, it's a long time no talk.
Yeah, absolutely. Are you well, Jenny?
I'm very well indeed, thank you, Yusuf. But tell me why you've called.
I didn't call. Your engineer called me, if my memory serves me correctly. And
okay.
He says you can speak to her, please, man.
Oh, goodness.
No,
well, Yusuf, I want to
fine.
speak to you any old time of the day. If you get this JMPD parking happening in Fordsburg, is it going to be welcome there, or will it be seen as limiting business in Fordsburg?
Well, Jenny, thank you very much for the question. I think personally we are on the same page as most of the other forums around the greater Johannesburg metropolitan area. And we are saying that, listen, this is a definite no-no for a couple of reasons. But one of the fundamental reasons is that there was no awareness or participation from anybody from different areas that been on your show during the course of today. So how do we engage? And this is not it's a money-making scheme. They're not even telling us who the people, how to attend, and all of those things. So what we've done is there's different forums like Parkhurst, Fordsburg, Melbourne, all the ones that come together. Listen, okay, we have a system. But our Fordsburg is even worse because we were marginalized in the past. We are currently marginalized. There's no parking whatsoever, Jenny. And there are certain roads that we are using which has no parking markings for parking, and they're ticketing us there ongoingly. And what has happened is that 100% of the people that come to Fordsburg, in excess of 25-27% are not coming anymore here because of the harassment from JMPD. So yes, we are saying, as the Business Forum of Fordsburg may say that, yes, we are definitely against this.
Well, Yusuf, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how it develops because you've got a very strong business forum there. And do you know when the parking is due to be instituted in Fordsburg?
We believe it's going to be sometime during the course of the 1st of June or something. But I don't know if you probably heard that we have collectively come through to different business forums, and we are sending our memorandum to the Joburg City Council.
Okay, so Yusuf, have you had a public meeting with the Joburg City Council? I mean, have you been informed about this?
No, ma'am, we've not been informed. We don't know. But what we're doing ideally from our side is on Thursday we have a massive meeting that's taking place with the voices of all the business people, the traders, and the storeholders, and of course also the landlords and property owners. We're expecting a huge crowd to be here on Thursday between 2:30 and 3:30 in the afternoon, and hopefully we'll get a way forward from there to say what is the mandate now from our members.
Yes. Well, that certainly is what you do. So that's going to be held on Thursday, is that correct?
That is correct, Jenny.
All right, Yusuf, will you just remember where we are and just give us a call?
I definitely will get in touch with you or your engineer. And what number do we get hold of you, Jenny?
Well, I think that you just need to phone my producer. So, so if I'll put you back to the person who's taking the calls, and they'll be able to give you that number.
God bless you, and thank you very much. With you and the 702 for participating with the things that are right, and we really appreciate your participation, Jenny. Thank you very much indeed.
Yusuf Sidat, thank you very much indeed. Thank you very much indeed for all of your calls. Thank you for your interest. Thank you for the people who've driven by and have given the thumbs up. Thank you to Nastasia Tay for being here. I think it's been very interesting. I think lots of citizens are becoming more active than they were, let's just say 6 months ago. And I think that's very, very healthy for our democracy. And of course, we'll keep you up to speed with what happens in the JMPD rollout of parking schemes in 702 land.